Hello and welcome to the Command Point YouTube channel, not podcast.
That's right.
We are talking today about, this is going to be one of our bi-monthly ITC updates. We're also going to have a little chat about Custodes.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that, Ryan?
A chat about Custodes?
Yeah.
I think that's putting it lightly.
Well, I mean, really, we're not going to touch the surface, but we just want to throw some thoughts out into the...
just put something out there and see how people react to it.
Sure. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about the ITC rankings and a little bit about a couple events that happened this weekend. There was the Third Eye Games tournament.
Yep.
Which, unfortunately, I was not able to make it out. I was planning on it, just things didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So Janice took first.
Unsurprising.
Yeah. And then second place was Paul. Janice took Death Guard, as we expected.
Mm-hmm.
She's killing it with those right now.
Yeah.
Second place was Paul Guzman with Death Watch. Paul Guzman is a guy, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. He's on the Discord, the Glass Discord. His name is Faithion or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Congrats to him. And third place was Shane Watts, who took his 1,000 Suns. So congrats to Shane Watts. He's gotten so many events.
Yeah.
He's got 3 events already on the season.
Yeah.
And then the other noteworthy thing from this weekend was the BAO prep that happened. And Biernid took first with Adeptus Astartes with an Iron Hands Salamanders list. We can throw that list in the description, but pretty impressive stuff.
You and I, we both looked at it a little bit. Do you have like anything that you want to dive into a little bit about it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to touch too much on it. I mean, you're more of an Astartes guy than me.
Yeah.
I think that Iron Hands is certainly interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked to see the list against, I don't know what his matchups were. I would like to see the list, like how he played it myself. It's hard to talk about that without talking about the games. Alex Squires took second at the BAO prep with his AdMac.
The one thing that struck me about Biernid's list was the amount of, or I should say the lack of, 2 wound models.
Mm-hmm.
So I get that he was getting a couple clutch 6-up invulns with his Iron Hands roster, but that sort of roster definitely, I think, would have struggled against any sort of psychic faction, especially Grey Knights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know he was running a lot of Storm Shields.
Yeah.
And obviously you got the 6-up Feel No Pain, so it's pretty hard to kill that list.
Yeah.
Unless you're a Psyker.
Yeah.
In which case it's a bit easier.
Yeah.
I don't know if he had an answer for that on the roster. That's something I'd have to ask him about. But congrats to Chris for taking first over there.
Mm-hmm.
Been a lot of BAO preps going on the West Coast. So moving on, we're going to do our breakdown of the top 5 on the ITC. Okay, so our updated ITC rankings as of today is Monday, March 9th.
Mm-hmm.
At number 5, we have the Spanish player, John Sau, who has been playing Death Guard this year. He's played at 2 events. I believe he took first with Death Guard at it was the February RTT, and then he took second with Demons at the January RTT over on the Kill Team Granada events that they have going on over there. So congrats to John, sitting at 5th right now.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts on that? On those 2 factions with
Demons and Death Guard?
Yeah. The man loves his chaos.
Yeah. I mean, we know that Demons are very good if you run them correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And then Death Guard, I don't know. I think what we're seeing here is just like more good players are just experimenting with other factions and finding success with them.
Yeah. Death Guard's having a little bit of a 2020 resurgence with Janice taking them to 2 first places. And now John. Anyway, moving on, there is at 4th we have Manuel Melguizo. Melguizo. And he has played 2 events as well. Both he played the February RTT for Granada, and he played the GT de Madrid.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have a first place over those 2 events, but he took Necrons to 3rd at the GT de Madrid and Heretic to 2nd at the February RTT over there in Spain.
Do you know what packet they were running at that tournament?
They've been running a ton of packets at different tournaments. I don't have them all mentally, but I know they've been playing Slaughter Zone a lot.
Okay.
They played Depsicon a couple times maybe, or maybe it was Nova. But and I know they have a pack of their own that they've played one event on. I haven't seen the pack. I don't know anything about it. It's probably in Spanish, so I couldn't read it anyway. But I would love to find out what they're doing over there with that.
Yeah.
Moving on, number 3, Chris Harris, aka Byrnid.
Yep.
And he's also hit 3 events. So obviously he had that rough outing a couple weeks ago with placed 13th with Tiernans at the LVO GT, but he took first with Astartes here at the most recent BAO prep. So congrats to Chris. I feel like Byrnid's been in a little bit of a slump lately, and it's kind of cool to see him have a big showing again.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I feel like he's just been like having a rough time with his events lately.
Yeah.
He's a good player though. It's good to see him come back on that.
And this was a BAO prep, so that list was obviously tailored towards the packet, and it is good because it feels like every single one of those models with the storm shields, they also had a flamer with them.
Yep.
Because they were all company vets, so it's like an arena that's very strong.
Yeah, I don't know what his matchups were, but that can be pretty deadly.
I think he talked about it a little bit on the Discord. If people just go into Glass's Discord and just search a little bit, they'll be able to find it.
Yes. Coming in at second, and this is Shane Watts. He's still, I think he was at second the last time he did this, but now he has 3 events. 3 top 5 finishes at all of his events. He's been playing Thousand Suns all year. Congrats to Shane Watts for coming in at second. And then number 1, we got Janice, who is just killing it. She actually only got 2 events. So there's a lot of people with 3 events on here.
Yeah. Well, she's got both first place finishes. So yeah.
First place at the Warp Charge Gaming Tournament and first place now at TEG. So on 2 different packets.
Yeah.
Janice is coming in strong 2020.
Yeah.
There's no Michael T. Holy to dethrone her yet. Shout out to East Coast. East Coast top 2 right now, Shane Watts and Janice. Right. Also, U.S. is back after the Spanish dominance. Of early February.
That LVO hangover.
Yeah, but we're back. So moving on, I guess we can get into that Custodes conversation.
Okay. So
they're problematic. I'm sure we've already put it in the title of this video.
Yeah. So what about them is problematic to you? And we're not really approaching this from they're hard to play. You know what I mean? It's more like basically, how do tournament designers, like the people that design the packets, how can they balance their packet while allowing Custodes into the tournament?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit. I think we saw something with LVO where Custodes were good, but they weren't stomping, and they weren't horrible, obviously, like they were, because with the Nova style, before Kill Hold, they were trashed here. There's no way you're ever going to win a tournament with Custodes. I don't know. I also don't think you were ever going to win with Custodes at LVO. They were just middle of the pack instead of bottom tier.
Right.
And I don't know if there's a way that you can make Custodes a faction that can win a big tournament without having them be a little bit
so broken.
They're either complete garbage or they break your packet. Or they'll never win. There's really no, I don't know. It's tough for me because.
So is it just like the secondaries that tournament organizers come with, and it's just like figuring out, how can Custodes score any of these, or how can I dull this down that way Custodes it's not too easy for them? Or
coming from the perspective of making a tournament packet, which I'm not going to make any announcements, but I have been working on one, and the first thing I think of when I'm tinkering with it is, okay, how can Custodes break this? And I've had to make changes to the packet, and I've had to get rid of some things that I thought were kind of cool because Custodes break it. It was a situation where, okay, well, Custodes is going to win every game if you just do this and this and this.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even very interactive. It was just, I don't know, because the problem to me is when you start reaching and finding new ways to make a tournament packet that is good for the game and it's good for every faction except Custodes breaks it.
Yeah.
And I was having a chat recently with Byrnid, and he kind of half jokingly raised the notion, what if we just ban it on a packet? What if we say no Custodes? And it's something that I've kind of thought about before.
Yeah.
And I honestly, this is probably controversial. People are going to get pissed about this, but I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be the guy to do it.
Oh, okay.
I don't think anybody wants to be the person to say, let's ban a faction.
Let's ban a faction. Yeah. That is rough.
I mean, another thing is the developers have pretty much come out and said that they just wanted them in the game for fluff purposes.
Right.
Like there's no real balance attempt there.
Yeah.
You can't really make them balanced.
That definitely shows.
Yeah.
Because these tournament packets that are coming out are relatively balanced.
Yeah, I think they've been really
they're definitely
good.
more balanced than like all the missions out of the core rule book and out of the elites book and what do you call it? The annual.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's valid because like look, the tournament performances for Custodes have been like leading up to LVO and a few other tournaments this past season. People were like, oh, I don't know, Custodes could be really good because they're so good at killing things. But the performances we've seen out of the faction, they're mid-tier at best.
Gatekeeper level, but they can't
Definitely
get above
gatekeeper level, but they can't get above that. And that's just because of how, like when people make a balanced packet, Custodes break it. So you need to compensate for that.
Yeah. I mean, and another thing too is the only time we've ever seen competitive success from Custodes was during some of the LVO prep tourneys. And that's like a prep tourney, like in the ones leading right up before LVO. So it was a lot of people like experimenting with different things and
right.
I just don't, it's hard to push the game further and push the packets further without Custodes just
wrecking everything.
Just ruining it.
Yeah.
And it's really annoying because you can have a packet that's really good and there's no issues with it, but that's only if Custodes are around. And it's a faction that the developers haven't even really made an attempt to fit with a balance in mind, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's the problem with Custodes is they're either trash or they're too good.
And that's just because they're such an extreme faction, you know. They're a faction of so many extremes. They're the lowest model count. They're pretty okay at shooting. They're great at killing things in assault.
Impossible to kill most of the time.
Impossible to kill most of the time, unless you have a Deathwatch frag cannon or something crazy like that. And then most of the time when you're playing against them, you just kind of play like they're not even on the board, and you just try to play positional. Yeah,
it's a very non-interactive way. And that's another thing. It's not, people don't really have fun playing as or against Custodes.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's like they did okay at LVO, but it doesn't matter if they were never, ever going to win. They were never going to win.
Absolutely.
No player could have made them win. Michael T. Hulley could not have won with Custodes. No top player could have taken Custodes and won. It's just not in the cards. You can play around it, and their weaknesses can't be played around.
Right.
From the player's perspective, from the Custodes player's perspective.
Yeah. And just because of that, I think that it's totally fine for a tournament to just ban the faction.
Yeah.
Because it's a tournament, it's competitive. Why bring essentially what some are considering a non-starter faction to a tournament? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like that does suck, but you know, Games Workshop would just have to rework the Custodes to make them a more balanced faction.
Yeah, I don't know how they would do that either.
Me neither. I mean,
it's just how they are. They just shouldn't be in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, from like a narrative perspective, like a casual perspective, sure.
Yeah,
but yeah, I don't know. I can't stand Custodes. I don't think they bring. I don't know. I just don't think they make the game better.
Yeah,
I think they make the game worse. And it makes it harder for people to make better packets because they exist.
Well, all right. I am interested in hearing what you guys out there listening have to say about this, because this is a very controversial subject. So
yeah, what I want to hear from a Custodes player.
Absolutely.
I want to hear what a Custodes player has to say in response to this. I I just can't. I feel like everybody that plays Custodes just kind of plays it on the side. Like it's not their main thing.
Yeah, no, like we play with 2 Custodes players.
Yeah, but they both kind of play it,
but they both
on the side.
Yeah,
they're
like, okay, let's break out the meme list for this meme game.
Yeah, except sometimes you have to practice against it because if you're going to a tournament, what if they bring Custodes? You have to be ready.
I disagree, but
yeah. Well, anyway, people listening, give us your thoughts. I need to hear what people have to say about this.
Yeah.
I know we're not alone on this.
Absolutely.
I know someone else out there agrees about this.
Yeah.
Just let us know.
Yep. I think that about wraps it up.
Yeah. Don't forget to hit that like button.
Oh God, we're doing this. And comment and subscribe and hit the bell notification.
Yes.
And
then watch it again.
What else can we? Yeah, share it with all your friends
and family. Oh.